Finance Me Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and all those terrible Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. You're listening to Drop the Mic, the only podcast that I listen to that I'm not a part of. Every podcast I listen to, I usually talk on it, but not fucking Drop the Mic. That's where I'm like, let me hear what the boys have to say. And now, we drop the mic.
Mom would have hated seeing the cabin like this.
Oh, is that what? What is this?
Shouldn't have touched anything from that basement.
Kunda. Strata. Montose. Kanda.
You are all going to die tonight.
I read a passage from that book. I released some evil. Oh my god! What the fuck did you do that?
Welcome back to our humble San Diego podcast. This is Drop the Mic, and we're your hosts for the evening, Ryan Jimenez and Wesley Swanson. Here is episode 290, Reimagining a Cult Classic, where we will be attempting to deconstruct 2013's Evil Dead reboot. But first, let's get everybody started with some of our usual warm-up segments. How are you, Ryan? What's going on, dude?
What's up, dude? How's it going? Been good. Just chilling. You know me.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited you picked this banger to follow up our Exorcist episode, man. Last week's episode was definitely one of my favorites, at least in the horror genre that we've done. Yeah. That we've done in a very long time. I was very satisfied when I edited that. I was like, man, this is so good.
Yeah, dude, that was a good ass episode. It was fun. So if you haven't listened to this episode, I'm gonna find you and beat you up.
And Ryan can do
episode. Nah, just kidding. But yeah, dude, that was a good ass episode. Hopefully this one rocks too. I'm excited.
Hell yeah, man.
And now for a special news report. Brought to you by Drop the Mic.
All right, so pop culture news. What do you got for me?
So Taissa Farmiga is returning as Sister Irene in The Nun 2. Michael Chavis will direct the sequel to 2018's The Nun, which remains the highest grossing chapter in the Conjuring universe at $365 million worldwide. What are your thoughts on that?
You're telling me that The Nun made the most money?
Yeah, $365.5 million.
That's so fucking stupid.
I think it just has a lot to do with that character.
Yeah,
everyone's scared shitless. But yeah, I was like, what? When I first was doing the research, I was like, holy shit.
That's all hype, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely.
And like we talked about that movie a little bit on the Conjuring episode that we did a couple weeks back, and The Nun is good aesthetically. It's a great kind of throwback to the gothic horror or almost Hammer horror kind of style of storytelling, but I just found myself kind of bored in the theater, you know, and it's like a slow burn, but also it is kind of like a little bit, how do you say, like predictable, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you that it's probably more so the scary nature of that character. Valak is, you know, that chick as that character is amazing. I'll give them that for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on, Jonathan Majors is in early talks to play Dennis Rodman in 48 Hours in Vegas from Lionsgate. when I read the news, I was fucking like, holy shit! Like, I think he would kill it as Dennis Rodman. Like, he looks like him. He's a good ass fucking actor. That story of that, Rodman leaving the Bulls in '96, I believe, to go on like a 48-hour binger in Vegas is insane. I don't know if you know anything about that.
A little bit. I was a big Bulls fan back in the day, or the dynasty, I should say. Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy story, and I'm excited to see if it comes to if they do make it, because it sounds rad.
Do you know how would it be kind of like how they did like Tyson and I, Tonya, like in the vein of that?
I'm pretty sure it would be like that. I didn't read anything else other than that. It's just in like super early talks with him to play him. Okay.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad. I'm really loving all these kind of stylized biopics that are becoming like trending, because they're really, so far, the ones that I've seen are really, really good and engaging,
Yeah. Moving on in some box office news. Horror movie Smile opened at number 1, making $22 million in its first weekend, which is crazy. It's the second horror movie to open at number 1 in 3 weeks, joining Barbarian. And both movies were directed by first-time feature directors, which is dope as shit. I haven't seen Smile, but I've heard cool things about it.
Yeah. Wasn't there have you seen that I think it might be a TikTok video of that chick that's just smiling I think it might have been in Oakland?
Yeah, dude. I think it happened in a couple of places, in a couple of baseball games that week. But yeah, that marketing was fucking awesome for it.
Yeah.
And like, she just sat there the entire time. If you don't know what we're talking about, like, I'm pretty sure you can Google it. But yeah, she's just sitting behind home plate, like smiling, looking straight into the camera for fucking 3 hours. It's insane.
What I love about that new movie Smile, of course I haven't seen it yet either, it's important to throw that out there, but it seems like that movie is basically taking the Truth or Dare movie that came out a couple years ago that was PG-13, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna steal your concept but make it rated R and better.
I never put those two together, actually.
It's literally like the same, the kind of like in the same wheelhouse. It's crazy that I haven't seen anybody make that comparison just yet, but that's probably because that movie Truth or Dare had no how do you say, footprint, or nobody remembers it at all.
You were the only one that saw it, weren't you? Because I haven't seen it, dude. Some more horror movie news. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie from Blumhouse has officially found its director in Emma Tammy. She'll helm the video game adaptation that they've been working on for a couple years, I think. Tammy is mostly known for her 2018 horror western, The Wind, which I have not seen. But I know, like, the Five Nights at Freddy's, I don't know if you know anything about it, but I know it's like huge with like kids, and they have like video games and comics and books, and I think there's like animated like series or movies on it.
Yeah, I've played the game, and I'm aware of the kind of phenomenon of the game. I haven't seen that director's, what you said it's called, The Wind. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but it's pretty interesting that they got a female director. And do you know if this is going to be aimed at kids, the way that
from what I remember, I think it was who's one of the guys that frequently produces all those Blumhouse movies. Anyway, one of the producers was saying that it's gonna be like a horror movie. So like don't expect anything don't expect anything too light. Like it's gonna be dark. I'm pretty sure they'll aim at PG-13 so they can get that extra cash at the box office. I'll be surprised if they go rated R. But yeah, I know my godson was like super into it. I think he still might be into it. So yeah, it has a chokehold on that age group. How are the games? Are they cool?
Yeah, they're fun. Kind of like pretty simple, but pretty scary for the age bracket they were going after. And
Yeah,
it's pretty astounding that kids were drawn to it the way that they were or / are. It was almost like it had like a Minecraft effect,
yeah.
but for subculture. So it's pretty interesting.
I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong. I think it was kind of like a introduction to that type of stuff in the horror for my godson, and now he's into a whole bunch of different type of stuff like that. So he'll sit down and watch movies with my cousin and things like that. So, yeah. What else? Okay, so there was I don't know if this was like newer news, but I saw it and I decided, I think that people must know this, but so there was a study done. I don't know if you have ever heard of this, of the scariest jump scares of all time.
No.
So apparently they put like heart monitors on a whole bunch of different people and monitored their heart rate through a list of movies, and they came up with a list of 10 movies, 10 scenes, 10 jump scares or whatever that are apparently are the scariest of all time, scientifically speaking. So if you want, I can go down the list.
Yeah, go ahead.
So number 10 is a jump scare. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't seen these movies, but from the Babadook.
Oh yeah.
Which yeah, that's pretty scary. Number 9 is a scene from The Quiet Place. I'm pretty sure it's that opening scene. 8 is a scene which it should probably be the entire fucking movie, but from The Descent.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy. 7 was a jump scare from The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Oh yeah.
6 was a jump scare from an Argentinian horror movie called Terrified. I've never seen it. I don't know about if you've seen it.
No, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah. 5 was surprisingly a jump scare scene from A Quiet Place Part 2, which I loved, but I don't remember it being that scary.
There's some crazy tension, yes, but
yeah,
I agree with you.
Number 4 is a scene from the 2020 film Host. I've never seen it.
When did that come out?
2020.
Yeah, the Shudder.
Yeah, Shudder.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Good.
Yeah, I got it on VHS. If that means anything.
Oh damn. Number 3 is number 3 is a jump scare from Sinister, which is fucking scariest, I think, of all time. One of the.
Oh yeah, even just those like Super 8, mini movies. God damn.
Yes. Number 3, 2, and 1 are kind of. I think everyone would put these up there. Number 2 is that particular jump scare from The Conjuring. I want to say it's that cabinet scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's right where it's supposed to be. And the number 1 scariest jump scare of all time, registering a heart rate spike of 133 BPMs, is in Insidious.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Insidious. Do you know, or you don't want to give it away?
I don't want to give it away. I think I know what scene it is. But that, just like The Descent, that whole fucking movie is just unsettling.
Yeah.
And then just on some really serious news, there's elections in November. I think there's some locally, or there's some big bills and props being on that for us in California, but Texas is that governor race is huge for the country. We want to get that piece of shit Greg Abbott out of there. This Tuesday is the last day to register or update your voting info in Texas. I know I have a lot of homies and good friends in Texas. And if you're listening to this and you're not registered or you need to update your registry, Tuesday is the last day you can do that, since it's a month away. And you can head to registertexas.com or call 1-844-TX-VOTES, VOTES, to get registered or update your registry. Please, please, please. It is a must. Let's get Beto in that seat ASAP. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Good stuff this week, man.
Thank you.
But
what do you got for us?
Also, on a serious note, please vote. It's very, very important, because if we don't vote, then others will, and that's not a good thing.
No, it is not. Especially in that state.
Okay, I have a few pieces for you this week, none of which you hit on. Pretty surprised, but I'm excited by that. All right, first up, Damien Leone's newest film, Terrifier 2, is showing in theaters all over the U.S. starting today, and if that wasn't enough, just know that when you go in to watch it, it will be completely uncut.
What?
Yeah, they're showing the unrated cut. So basically how you would watch it at home, or how the first one was, like just balls to the wall, like
guts everywhere.
Yeah. On the big screen. Terrifier 2.
Hell yeah.
Art the Clown. So exciting. I'm going to try to go watch it this weekend, because it's playing very close to my work conveniently. So yeah, Terrifier 2. I'm very excited to see what they came up with this time. You know, it's been a few years of following along with this production, and I'm glad that it's finally here upon us in the fall, in October, and yeah, should be a great time.
Oh yeah, go and support that shit.
What else? Next up, Chucky Season 2 made its debut Wednesday night, so fire up that DVR and get ready for a wild new season on Sci-Fi and USA Network.
Don't shame me, but I haven't watched the first season yet.
That's alright. There's always, because the longer you wait, the more content you get to binge all at once.
I had mentioned that we needed to watch it, because I was like, well, I want to be ready for season 2, but I thought it was further out. I didn't think it was this week.
Yeah, it's already started. I was it came up while I was at work last night, which was funny. I was like, oh shit, this is the new episode.
Fuck work, I need to catch up.
Right. And then I'm not somebody who watches basic cable very much nowadays, although I do pay for it. I didn't realize that they're allowed to say whatever they want now, because the Chucky series has like a bunch of F-bombs, and they were saying that shit on Sci-Fi Channel last night.
It's crazy that you say that, because I forgot what I was watching the other day. It was a couple while. I think I might have been at my parents' house up in the Bay Area, and yeah, I noticed that they were. Maybe that's how long we haven't been watching like basic cable or reg cable, but yeah, that's kind of crazy.
As we've announced on the show before, the next chapter within the Evil Dead franchise is dropping April of 2023, and a few days ago, the director Lee Cronin shared a photo from the set that was taken just last year, and it looks to be a bloody mess. You can check this out via Cronin's Twitter right now.
Is that the picture with all the blood?
Yeah, and it's like a hallway, and there's like a there's like a dolly track on the floor, but then there's body parts laying everywhere.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for that, dude.
Especially that Warner or New Line is bringing it to theaters, which means that they believe in it. They're not dumping it on digital.
Yeah,
which is cool.
it'll make its money, dude. I mean, that this franchise is massive.
They better, man, because all those fuckers who didn't fucking subscribe to Stars and got the show canceled. You got some work to do. All right, moving on. Todd McFarlane recently opened up about the status of the new Spawn film. Apparently, Blumhouse is still attached with Jamie Foxx, still set to star as Al Simmons, aka Spawn himself, but the film is still seeking a director and partner studio. Any thoughts on this, man?
Dude, I feel like he's been trying to get this thing done for forever. It's good that Blumhouse and Jamie are still attached to it. Yeah, I just hope it gets done, dude. I think it's something that needs to be rebooted, and it in the age of like R-rated superhero movies like Deadpool or shows like The Boys, I think it would crush at the box office, especially with Blumhouse and Jamie attached to it.
Yeah. You know, as a kid, I was a big fan of, the comic book run. I think it started in 92, which was Spawn #1, and up until the movie came out, I owned the movie and I was obsessed with it for a long time. But then as I started realizing, like, I guess maturing, I was like, wow, this really isn't very good. The art direction and the suit and everything is beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They did get a lot right with it. The soundtrack is great. But as far as the story and it being PG-13, it was just kind of a misfire, and I can't wait to finally get, hopefully, our R-rated version of Spawn. Being a big fan, and that really, honestly, Spawn really got me into the more adult comic books. So that character has been a part of me and will be a part of me forever. But I think that's all I had for news. But I did want to give a special shout out to our boy Kevin Smith, who we were able to see on this past Sunday, and he did a great intro for our podcast, the podcast you're listening to right now. So shout out to our boy Silent Bob for being so amazing and supportive. It's very important.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Shout out the fucking. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Shout out to the podcast god.
That's right, man. He's been doing podcasts since what? I think he started in 2007.
It's fucking insane. Now he has his own fucking theater.
Yeah, the Smodcastle, right?
That's dope. And I don't know if you guys have I don't know if you've looked at him or if the listeners have looked up on the list of like events he has coming. There's some dope ass shit going on there, like within the next 6 months. But
thank you, Kevin. You're rad. We love you.
Real quick, going back to Terrifier, did you see that it has 100 on Rotten?
Really?
Yeah. And it's 2 hours and 24 fucking minutes?
Are you serious? Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, dude. I just looked at that. Fucking insane.
It's as long as Don't Worry, Darling. That's crazy. Amazing. They were like, yeah, we're not sure if we're going to be able to do a third one, so let's just make this as long as possible.
And now it's time for the weekly recommendations.
All right, moving into our weekly recommendations, man. What have you watched since last week?
So I have been watched much. I've been busy. I did go see Trick or Treat in the theaters on Sunday night. I hope you guys did as well. It was awesome to see Sam on the big screen for the first time, and it was cool to see like everyone come out in like their Sam and Trick or Treat gear, and be in a theater with people that love that movie just as much as we do. So yeah, it was a fucking awesome experience. So I did see that. But the recs I have this week are for all the comic readers out there. Since we are doing these spooky episodes and we're in October, if you haven't checked Harrow County out, it's a horror comic series by Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook. It's from Dark Horse Comics, and it ran from I think like 2015 to 2018. You can get like the collected versions, or you can get like the volume. I think it's like 5 or 6 volumes. It's very, very good, very creepy. Yeah, so if you like comics, check that out if you haven't. My next rec is kind of goes along with the show we're about to do. Evil Dead the game. I know we've talked about it before. It's fucking awesome. It's co-op and player versus player combat. I think it's the best out of those Friday the 13th or what are those other games? What are the other 2 games called?
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight. I think it's the best out of those. Kind of the same premise, but if you love Evil Dead as much as we do, you'll fucking love it. I know Wes and I played it a bunch when it first came out. They just dropped a DLC. I think if you have the season pass, it's for free, but they just dropped the DLC for 2013 Evil Dead, which we're about to talk about. You got like a couple characters and like a offline mission and a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, check that out. And then all my wrestling heads, fucking Extreme Rules is this Saturday. WWE Extreme Rules is streaming live on Peacock. I cannot wait because I cannot wait to see Seth Rollins beat the shit out of Matt Riddle. Then there's some good matches. They're going to have the first ever women's ladder match for a title at Extreme Rules. So that's fucking awesome. Bailey. It's going to be Bianca Belair versus Bailey for the Raw Women's Championship in a ladder match. And all the matches, because it's Extreme Rules, is like Extreme Rules match, ladder match, Seth Rollins and Riddle. Since Riddle has kind of an MMA background, they're fighting in like a fucking... I forgot what they call it. It's like I think it's like an octagon though, which is insane. But yeah, check that out if wrestling is your thing. And then my last rec, keeping with the theme, is Don't Breathe, written, directed by Fede Alvarez, who directed 2013 Evil Dead. It stars Stephen Lang, Jane Levy, and Dylan Minnette. It's streaming right now for free on Tubi. So please check that out if you haven't, because it is fucking awesome. I haven't seen the second one, so ask Wes. What do you got for us?
All right, first up, my Rex. The other night, I've been lately, I don't know if it's stress or what, but I've been suffering from a bit of insomnia, similar to Fight Club. Jack and Fight Club. So I just watch crazy shit until I pass out. And one of those movies was it's currently on Hulu. It's called On the Count of Three, and it stars Gerard Carmichael, Chris Abbott, and Tiffany Haddish. The film basically centers around 2 friends who wish to simultaneously end their lives together, but first want to tie up some loose ends within both of their lives. It's got an 84 on Rotten currently, and this is a beautiful movie, man. It touches on the kind of that taboo subject of mental health, but not just mental health, from the perspective of men, and how we're supposed to, I feel like, even if it's, how do you say, unspoken, I feel like it's kind of weird for men to, at least right now in society, to be open about their feelings and things that they're going through, and I feel like this movie tackles that perfectly. It's very playful, but at the same time super dark, and it really made a huge impact on me, man. And of course I love Chris Abbott and all his work, and this is no exception. He's so great. Carmichael is amazing. Gotta check it out if you haven't yet.
It's on. You said it's on Hulu right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. I just never got around to seeing it. But now that I know it's on Hulu, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's got a super crazy cameo from Henry Winkler of of the original Scream and Happy Days. You know, the Fonz himself is in it. Pretty nuts. But yeah, on the count of 3, can't recommend it enough. Check it out. And then my second and final rec for this week, I watched a little film called Fall, which is basically about 2 adrenaline-seeking climbers who find themselves stranded on the top of a radio tower with no cell phone reception. The 2 must work together in order to find a way down. So they're about 2,000 feet in the air because they get to the top and something the tower starts collapsing around them, kind of. So it's, how do you say it, kind of like almost like a natural disaster movie, but like smaller scale. It's got a huge, I saw an ad for it that it was like, it was certified fresh. So I checked it out and I was very pleasantly surprised. I always love little films like this that take a very simple kind of premise and they totally fucking, kill it and make you believe. Similar to, think about, was it 47 Meters Down? When that came out, when that came out, I'm sure a lot of people were like, how can you make a movie about these 2 women that are just stuck at basically the bottom of the ocean for an hour and 30 minutes and make it engrossing, make it cinematic, So I always love watching movies like this that are able to exceed your expectations in that way and tell kind of inventive and new stories. And this one is amazing. So check it out. It's called Fall.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard about it. It's streaming now?
I watched it on demand. I don't believe it's streaming on a platform just yet, because it's still, I think it hasn't been out for that long, but yeah, pay the couple bucks. It's definitely worth it. It had me, look, of course, like I'm laying in my room on my bed and my fucking stomach was like dropping for them because of how expertly shot this was. It just makes you feel like you're there and you're just like, holy shit, like I can't handle this. Oh man, so much stress inducing tension there. But yeah, Fall, amazing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the movie focus of the week.
Once again, Ryan, being the horror head that he is, last week we talked about The Exorcist. I didn't know how to follow it up. He pitched the idea to talk about the Evil Dead 2013 reboot, which I was on board with because it also, although in a different nature, it's still tackling demon possession, which is scary. I don't care who you are. That's a scary thing. And
yes, it is.
So that's what we're talking about this week. It's rated R. It's from 2013. It's obviously from the horror genre. It runs at 1 hour and 31 minutes, and it's got a kind of low 63 on Rotten. Written by Rolo Segoyas and Fede Alvarez, directed by the great Fede Alvarez, starring Jane Levy as Mia, Shiloh Fernandez as David, Jessica Lucas as Olivia, Lou Taylor Pucci as Eric, and Elizabeth Blackmore as Natalie. The film is based around a brother, David, and sister Mia, and 3 friends who make the ill-fated decision to help Mia kick her drug habit by isolating her in a cabin deep in the woods. As we know, the area has a history with demon possession, and things soon turn sour for the group, but who will escape alive? The film's agenda was basically to take on director Sam Raimi's original film, but for the next generation, also playing with a more serious tone. The original franchise heads, including Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, and Rob Tappert, were all present for the reboot and oversaw all aspects moving forward. The 3 had been trying to get another film off the ground since 2004, with Ash making a comeback to the big screen. something that wouldn't happen until the Starz original Ash vs. Evil Dead. In 2009, aspiring filmmaker Fede Alvarez went viral with his short Panic Attack, which caught the attention of director Sam Raimi, as the two linked up to make the Panic Attack concept a feature-length film. The project ended up in development hell, where Fede Alvarez pitched Raimi his Evil Dead reboot concept, and the rest is history. Written by Alvarez and his longtime collaborator Roldo Segoyas, writer Diablo Cody, who you may know from her work on Juno, Jennifer's Body, and the United States of Tara, was hired to help flesh out some of the dialogue. The film was shot in New Zealand in March of 2012 and wrapped in May. However, the film did end up needing some reshoots. Although Alvarez had a huge background in CGI, he made the smart decision to use almost no CGI in this film, which made for longer, more demanding production, but in the end was very, very worth it. Released in the US on April 5th, 2013, Evil Dead managed to gross $97.5 million at the box office against its $17 million budget, making the project a financial success and helping pave the way for the TV show and the next film, Evil Dead Rise. Fede Alvarez's vision was incredible to see because while it clearly stands on its own, it also pays homage to its roots, and its decision to be nearly all practical effects will help it stay relevant for years to come. The film stands as one of the most chilling and authentic reboots of all time. The performances, score, cinematography, and art direction all mesh together to make one intense, crazy battle against the now infamous Deadites. 4 out of 5 nail guns. Thank you.
Hell yes.
All right, Ryan. You know how we start this off. What does this film mean to you, and why did you pick it for us this week?
So yeah, like I think I've talked about it before on episodes, but Evil Dead, the original, is in my top 5 of all time. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. It was one of the big gateways into that genre. So when I found out and heard that this movie was being released, I was fucking stoked. And then I saw that badass fucking poster. Like it was like the reddish one with like the gold writing, with her just standing there in the middle of the road. And I think it says like the most terrifying film you will ever experience.
Yes.
Fucking classic movie poster. I think I had that movie poster on my wall after the movie came out. But I do think it's the best reboot of all time. I love it. It's probably up there with the first one for me. And especially with all the other like kind of reboots, soft reboots, and stuff that we've been getting over the last couple years. I still think it stands above the rest. I saw this in theaters. I saw it about 2 or 3 weeks before the movie it actually came out. I won passes to see it. So yeah, dude, the experience in the movie theater was awesome. Just as you think it would be. Everyone's screaming and fucking yelling and fear. I think that, like you said, what you said in your opening, like it stands by itself, and obviously it has its roots, no pun intended, with the first one. But I do think that you can look at it as its own. Obviously, title is the exact same, but yeah, man, I just fucking love it and can't say anything. I can't say anything bad about it. Other than that, it's taking, and I know it's not even a sequel, but it's taken almost. It's going to be a decade between this and Rise that comes out. So yeah, man. What about you? How do you feel about it?
I was always very excited that all of the original, producers and the writers and directors were overseeing this, so I knew it was going to be something special. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered with it. I saw it the first. I didn't get advance passes like you, special guy, but I watched it. I think like its opening week, and I went with. At the time, I worked for Target, and a couple of my coworkers who were also my friends went with me to check it out, and they loved it. I thought it was amazing, man, and I think that this catapulted Jane Levy into stardom because she holds this movie together. I loved that there is no Ash, there is no Ashley in this, and they stayed away. They didn't try to top Bruce Campbell's performance because you'll never be able to do that, and so they were smart in that way, and they simultaneously kind of flipped the script and pulled kind of a really cool feminist kind of action where they turn Mia's character into an alternate kind of dimension Ash in a lot of ways, or at least that's the way that I took it, the ending of this movie. But so I've always respected that we got our kind of female Ash in Mia, which is rad, because she's so badass even when she's possessed in this. The most creepy shit that I've seen in the last maybe 15 years, as far as possession goes. The acting there is unmatched, especially with all of these how do you say, actors kind of being largely untested at this time. And that's how it goes for a lot of people. They find they get their foot in the door into Hollywood with horror films like this. And I think it might have been Bruce or maybe Rob Tappert, but he told the cast, he was like, look, this is going to be a fucked up shoot. It's going to be hard as hell, but you may never get this kind of chance in your career again. So do it. And they were right. This is a one of a kind thing. I agree with you that I think it's amongst the it's top shelf as far as reboots, because it's doing its own thing, but simultaneously, keeping its feet on the ground as far as where it comes from. It knows where it's come from, and I love it. And I'm gonna segue into a story because I think it's one of the coolest things I've done in my life. So my girlfriend Emma Duenas, who I've talked about on the show numerous times throughout the years, she loves this movie. She loves the whole franchise. She's obsessed with it. It's probably amongst her favorites, right? And I believe she was, when this came out in 2013, it was before we knew each other, and she was living in Hawaii, so she didn't get to go see it in theaters. I think she's kind of tapped out of movie culture while she was over there working on site, right? So she never got to experience this on the big screen, and I always found that interesting because she loved the franchise so much. So a few years back, when we first started with the podcast, and we started doing screenings, right, for the community in San Diego, I had this great idea, like let's screen Evil Dead, but 2013 at the digital gym for around Halloween time, and I think it would be badass. And I kind of played dumb, and I made it seem like if I just wanted to do it just because, but it was all this kind of elaborate scheme to pull off a surprise birthday party for Emma, and it worked out, man.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking awesome. I don't think I've ever asked you guys, how was her reaction, like walking in?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that because it opens up the floor for more storytelling. But so it was really cool. We had me and Atlas we had just put out our first mixtape, which is, or maybe no, it was the second mixtape where we did a bunch of original beats and used nothing but horror samples, right? And so I basically brought him to do like a DJ set that night, and at the old digital gym venue, there was a back patio where you could throw parties. So we put up all these banners and all this horror themed stuff, and everybody brought their own food, like a, how do you say, almost like a potluck. And still, keep in mind, Emma has no idea. She just thinks we're going to go watch the movie, and that's it. Right? So then I have to come up with some silly ass way to get her to come early. So I tell her, you know, I had me and the Digital Gym, where we talked to Sony Pictures, and they sent us an actual legit hard drive with the movie to screen. So I wasn't worried about having to have a Blu-ray or anything like that. Everything was set, but I came up with the story like, hey Emma, my Blu-ray isn't working tonight, so is there any way you could come and bring me your copy? And it was almost like she got mad at me, because she thought I was she thought I was acting so weird and standoffish, and was thinking some other stuff, right? So when she got there, she got really upset and didn't know what to make of anything. And she basically, I had her walk to the back, and she was just like, what's going on? And at this time, everybody's hiding, right? And she walks through these kind of big double doors to the back patio, and everyone jumps out and goes, surprise! And she looks at me, and the first thing she does is walks over and goes, oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was rad, dude. It was one of the coolest things that I've been able to pull off.
That's badass, dude. Hey, for the listeners out there, yeah, Wes is the best partner you could ever ask for. I mean, come on.
Thank you. And it was, you know, and it all stemmed from the idea of, let me bring this experience. Like, I want her to be able to see this movie on a bigger screen and a bigger level. Mm-hmm. And so, what better way than to do it for her birthday? And she even said, she was like, yeah, I'm never gonna forget this, like, as for the rest of my life.
Look at you, Wes, setting the bar so high for all of us.
I know.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. Let's talk about how do you feel about that whole little twist? I mean, I know we're jumping a little way ahead, but how did you like your first initial watch in the theater? Were you kind of surprised at how they went with Mia's character?
Yes, because I feel like you're going into that. A lot of these remakes and reboots that we get are pretty much a retread of an existing story, so you know where it's going, and you're just kind of watching for how they're going to execute it or make it modern. And this movie kind of fights against tropes in a lot of ways, you know, and mm-hmm. I can say that because even when you get to the cabin, like everything, like what they're wearing, there's no cell phones, like the cars, everything is kind of timeless, where you could be set almost any time between the 80s to now. It doesn't really establish what time frame, what era it's really taking place. Mm-hmm. Which is very interesting. But yeah, as far as them not having an Ash or putting the red herring as David, because David is, if you notice, he's kind of dressed the way that Ashley would be. Yes. Which is very interesting. So you're kind of like, oh yeah, and he's the brother, like it's going to end up being him. And then it doesn't. And then, Mia is basically resurrected and becomes the hero. And I don't think that anybody saw that coming whatsoever. And so, to me, I'm sure a lot of people, fucking incels and stuff, were upset about that. But I thought it was beautiful and unique, and that's what we wanted. What we want, we've already got our original story. If you're gonna make the effort to do something, tell a different story, Yeah,
I remember being in the theater being like, what? Like, as soon as that door closed, when he told her to when David told her, to run away, to get away, and he's sitting there with the shotgun, Yeah, I was super surprised, but it was a good surprise, like you said. Like it's what the I think it's what the genre needed, and it's what probably the franchise needed for it to kind of get a little bit more fresh air pumped into it.
Absolutely. And this, something I also admire about it is that how crisp it looks. All the shots, everything, like the way everything is lit, even when Mia's like trapped in the cellar and you can see like the light kind of gleaming down through the floorboards, like all of that seems so pre-staged, and it's just but like I've said on this show before, I love films that feel dangerous, and this feels like nobody is safe. It doesn't feel like it was shot on a sound stage. I'm sure some of it was for reshoots and whatnot, but it feels very authentic, like they're in the woods for real, and then there's all of these little kind of Easter eggs hinting back at the original film, like when everybody gets there and the movie's barely starting after our introduction and we meet Mia and David and everyone. Isn't Mia sitting on Ash's like old car?
Yeah, and I believe she's also wearing the same sweater, right?
Yep.
As yeah.
And then, and then David gives, when they have that first interaction, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you came to support me and everything." And he's like, "Yeah, I got you this necklace, for if you need some extra help." And the necklace, although not exactly the same, it mirrors the same symbol that Ash gives to his girlfriend in the first movie. So, and then the what might be the coolest Easter egg is in the in the actual cabin, the grandfather clock that they kind of zoom in and out on throughout the film is the actual clock from the first movie that was, I think, flown out there to the set specifically just for that.
That's fucking awesome.
I would say, like you were saying during your opening, that there's nothing that you really can say that you didn't like. The only thing that I feel like is questionable, and I understand that if these people were too smart, then we wouldn't have a story. But I was pretty mad at I believe his name is Eric, being such a big dummy, dude. Because things were getting bad. They find the cellar full of dead animals and obvious witchcraft. Something bad has happened there. So why? First of all, regardless of, I understand. Like, I love that everybody is fighting against their instincts because they're trying to be a good friend to Mia, and they know that she needs help and they don't want her to OD again, so it's believable. But at the same time, why would you guys stay there, first of all? And then second of all, why Eric finds the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, in the cellar, brings it up to the first floor, and then thinks it's a good idea to cut open this book that's bound in human flesh and obviously covered in a trash bag and barbed wire. He cuts through the barbed wire, not only goes through the book, but then deciphers the incantations and says them aloud. Okay, that's like I don't know, that's the dumbest shit that you could ever do.
I think it's funny. I think I read a review. One of the big movie reviewers said that it's just a bunch of basically what you just said, that they're just all fucking stupid, and it kind of took away from the movie. But yeah, no, I could totally see that. You're watching it, you're like, dude, please do not fucking cut this barbed wire. And he cuts the barbed wire. All right, stop at the plastic. He cuts the fucking plastic. He opens the book up, and it says like in blood, like, do not open this book, right? Or like, do not read.
Yeah.
And he gets like a piece of wax paper and starts like penciling the fucking language onto the wax paper, and he's saying it word for word, and you're like, Jesus, fuck, this guy's he's basically the reason why they're all about to die.
Yeah, because maybe I'm wrong, but I think that if he hadn't have done that they probably their exits and stuff wouldn't have been fucked with, because it was until he unleashed whatever was asleep in that cabin that it wouldn't let them leave anymore. But before that, at any time, even though things were looking pretty bad, had they left, they probably still could have left, you know?
Yeah. Fucking Eric. I think that too. Do you think that's why he kind of gets he's like a fucking cockroach, dog, throughout the movie? It's like all this shit keeps on happening and the worst fucking shit imaginable, and he continues to stay alive. So maybe that was their for him opening up the book and reading it and awakening what was ever there. That was their to get back at him, was just, you're just gonna fucking go through the worst pain imaginable.
Also, how dare he fucking call David a coward? Like in the middle of the movie, he's just, you're just a fucking coward, because he doesn't want to kill, he doesn't want to murder his sister, understandably. But it's like, yo, this is all because of you. And your dumbass, curiosity killed the cat ass fool ways. I don't know, man. But it was just funny. But, even though everything stems from Eric, he does help out in a lot of ways. And he, like you said, he is a trooper, and just he does not die until...
No.
Until finally at the end, he saves, he basically saves David from certain death, from being drowned by Mia or the demon Mia. And he subdues Mia and gets stabbed with a big X-Acto knife. And that's like the last straw where his body just can't take it anymore. And then it's funny, it's because it's like David is almost like checked out by that time, where he just like waits for Eric to die, and then he just throws him in this cellar water, like real savage like. And that's just it. And what's funny about talking about the behind the scenes stuff is that's not a stunt double. That's really Eric, the actor who plays Eric, gets tossed in the water, and he has to stay like that for maybe, I think, a minute while they're shooting him kind of floating under that water. They really flooded that that cellar and everything, so it was weird. They would have to go and take potty breaks and then go back into that shitty water and shoot for hours. Or even like when Mia loses her shit and she gets mad because nobody wants to help her leave, because they think that she's, at this point, there's a big miscommunication where everybody, like I said, they don't want to believe that something paranormal is happening, and they think that Mia's just losing her shit because she's going through withdrawals and doing whatever she can to get out, and so she can get her hands on more heroin or whatever. So then she ends up sneaking out the window and taking one of the cars, and she sees a figure on the road, and it makes her crash into this little, like a swamp pond. Well, apparently that swamp pond is, it was real, which I struggled to think about. How did they shoot that safely? How do you know that nothing is in there that could hurt people, because you have your DP in there filming her, but the crew somehow warmed that real swamp water for Jane Levy, so that way it wouldn't be too cold for her. But it was like that's actually like temperature water, so she could be as comfortable as you can shooting something like that. But I felt that was pretty interesting, thinking about like, how did you guys manipulate something that's real like that and know that there's not going to be any parasites or a fucking gator or whatever in there, you know?
That's fucking insane. I think that adds to it, right? Like all the way it was shot and how they shot it, and they shot it in sequence, right? So that like all the blood and shit that happens in the carnage throughout the movie, they could just kind of do it by scene, and they don't have to like, you know, they won't be afraid to ruining that fucking cabin, and then all of that stuff. And I think it adds to the film and it makes it that much more better.
Yeah, especially with something like this that has much relies so much on gore, and for continuity sake, you need to shoot something like this in chronological order, so that way you're able to, if you are going to go back and do something, you know the amount of blood and everything that you have to use. Like, it would be it'd be too hard to shoot everything backwards, or you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that makes sense. But and I agree with you going back that this film feels rough and hard and real because a lot of the times it is them out in the elements and really doing this shit and really being covered in mud and being cold and actually scared. There were some doubles used. Jessica Lucas's character, I think, is Olivia, right? Yes. So she's the one who's basically kind of like a nurse, and she's like, no, she's just going through withdrawals, like everything's fine, we've got to ride this out, and she'll be okay. And then Mia ends up throwing up on her, which is, Jane Levy really did that.
Shit.
And she said that it's the worst, like, it's made her, like, it was the worst thing she had to do in her whole life, because she felt like she was going to go to hell after, for doing something like that to somebody. She really did it. But anyway, that's how the possession is kind of passed on to Olivia through that nasty scene, and then they end up throwing Mia in the cellar and unlocking her in, which pays homage, of course, to the original. And then Olivia goes to the bathroom and she's grabbing like a shot to kind of, I think they're trying to drug up Mia so that she can chill out and not hurt herself. And even at this point, Eric knows that he's released something, and he says, he was like, I don't think a shot is gonna do shit, or like, he knows, we're not dealing with a mental illness anymore here. It's something more. But I love that. One of my favorite scenes is Olivia in the bathroom when the how do you say, the bathroom cabinet mirror smashes, and we get a glimpse of her already possessed, and she's fine, and she ends up, she's running back to the living room to administer the shot, and then she just kind of stops dead in her tracks and begins this possession. And the twitching and the stuff that they're doing is amazing, because it feels very much like, even though it's its own thing again, it feels very much in the vein of the original. And I really like the makeup and the style that they did, and the fact that it is really actors doing those twitches and stuff. It just feels way too authentic, and for that, with that, I feel it's very terrifying. But I guess my point of going through this plot point is that when Olivia stops in her tracks, right, that's a stunt double. So the what's her name, Jessica Lucas, never had to she didn't have to pee on herself or anything like that, or do that. I'm sure the stunt double didn't actually pee on herself, but she didn't have to get all gross. But yeah, that's scary, man. I remember seeing that for the first time. Like, what the fuck?
So you're saying is that your favorite kill?
It would be a toss up between it would be Olivia and her interaction with Eric in the bathroom, or when the Natalie stuff, when we go a little bit further into the movie, Natalie with who is David's girlfriend, when she ends up being possessed later and attacks Eric again with the crowbar. And then her when they take her out is also very, very brutal and amazing.
Yeah, dude, I think, Natalie's scene, especially that, the scene where with the fucking, what is it, the electric meat cutter?
Yes.
And Mia from the basement is just telling her, do it. And she fucking, like, she does it. It's kind of off screen when she does it. Well, she's starting to she does it, and then, it cuts back to Eric and David kind of running into the cabin, and she's just standing there, and she turns around, her fucking arm is like hanging by like a tendon.
All practical.
Yeah. And she says, doesn't she say something along the lines of like, I'm feeling much better now, or something like that?
Yeah, because there's still like the people, we as the audience know what's going on, but the people really don't, that are involved in the actual story. So they don't realize that, like, once you get bit or something from somebody who's possessed, it slowly starts to take you over. And Natalie realizes this, and so she basically takes off her own arm so that way it can't transfer to her body, and she thinks she's, for a while she's okay, and I think Mia is just freaking out by this time, and it's kind of ends up being mad that she cut it off, but it doesn't matter. It ends up not mattering because Natalie becomes off camera, of course, she becomes obsessed or possessed anyway, and ends up coming out of the dark with a big fucking electric nail gun, and actually is in the dark. She's shooting herself in the face with the nails first, and then she simultaneously attacks both David and Eric at the same time and is firing at them with the nail gun, and you see it go into, I think is it Eric first? His arm. She shoots
he shoots him, and he goes up against the door, and he's kind of blocking himself, and he gets a whole bunch in his arm, and then he's like blocking his chest, and she shoots him right in the hand, and it goes like through his hand into his chest a little bit, so his fucking hand is like nailed to his chest. And then I think she gets David a couple times, right?
Yes, in the leg, in his leg, and it's very visceral. And it's funny because a lot of movies, they tend to use, they make you think, and of course it's just suspension of disbelief. But I don't think, being somebody who's works in certain trades and stuff, a nail gun doesn't work like that. It doesn't have that type of pressure where you could fire it like a gun at somebody from that kind of distance. So it's interesting, but it works. It works. Cinematically, it's amazing, and that's not something they kind of foreshadow it later, but I feel like using that as a, how do you say, to increase like a kill was a great idea. It's super inventive, and it looks very, very brutal on screen. And when David ends up grabbing the a double barrel shotgun and puts her down where she doesn't have any limbs. I think maybe just her two legs. He takes off her hand because she's about to just kill Eric. David shoots her from behind, takes off her arm, right? And that that arm, when you see that arm flail against the wall, I guess they had like this prosthetic that was had a propulsion where it would shoot out, and they didn't like how that looked. So when you see the wall, the arm go flying off and smack against the wall, that's Fede Alvarez actually just throwing that limb against the wall, right?
That's awesome.
Movie magic. And it looks like you don't, the editing is so well throughout this whole movie, and especially that part, that you don't question it whatsoever. Like, it looks like for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I guess when Natalie turns around to him and she turns into herself again, and of course that's his girlfriend. She turns around to David and she's like, why does my face hurt, or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is improv. That wasn't the real line.
Oh shit.
And I guess Eric, when they were shooting that, the first time they shot that, he was like laughing in the scene because she's like, why does my face hurt? And he's just trying not to laugh in the background. And then she crawls to him and it's like, yo, what do you do in that situation? But it's pretty wild stuff, man. For everybody, there's a lot of people out there that I read that was like, yeah, that poster's bullshit and this wasn't scary at all. And it's just like, you guys are just, like we said before, you're just desensitized and you don't allow things to affect you anymore. But this is visually, it's some of the scariest stuff, contemporary stuff to come out in a long time. Like, it's just balls to the wall, intense. Like on the vein, or like on the like how when you watch The Thing, how The Thing makes you feel the same way because it's all practical effects, and you feel for these people that are in this isolated compound and there's no hope, and there's more than they do still. It's just, it plays a lot with that, and it makes it so effective because it's what's more scary than being in going out someplace secluded with your closest friends, and then you guys having to turn on each other like Lord of the Flies. That's a primal fear, because it's like,
yeah.
No matter what the book, the book tells you how specifically what you have to do to stop this demon, but it involves hurting your friends, and so it becomes like a moral compass type of thing where you're like, yeah, but these are my fucking like my friends, my family, like, so of course you're gonna be going back and forth within the story, like, what do I do? Can I really do this, or what's gonna happen? And that's what ends up happening with the arc of David, where he's gonna follow in what Eric said and burn everything down with Mia inside, and hopefully that'll stop whatever's happening, right? And then he realizes he kind of realizes that he's already left her before, and so he stops, because there's like this subplot within the movie where David and Mia are, of course, brother and sister, and they struggled with their mom, who they kind of allude that had Alzheimer's, and David ended up taking off because he couldn't handle it anymore, and he has a band and everything, and he kind of left Mia alone to deal with things by herself, and she holds some kind of like resentment there, and so when he's about to do it again, he has second thoughts, and he realizes, like, I'm gonna try something different, and that's why he ends up burying her alive, to see if he can bring her back as to be normal. Correct? Is that?
Yeah. That was basically his plan.
That was, burying her alive was the nicest thing that book says, as far as possible things you could do to stop, because there's like, what, dismemberment and something else, and then burying the person alive. So then we get this really cool montage shot that is, of course, like tapping back into Evil Dead 2, where Ash, goes out to the shed and he fucking rigs up his chainsaw, and then David ends up doing that, but with he creates like this MacGyver-esque defibrillator, which is super cool. and wild. And I guess they actually did research on that, and they said that could actually be done with a car battery. So it's not completely just hokey. There is some, I guess, reality based on that, which is wild. But that's another good thing is, or a great, how do you say, scene is where everybody's dead except for Mia and David, and he's kind of, how do you say, like digging up her grave so he can bury her alive and see what happens. And I guess when they were about to shoot that scene, David, or what's the actor's name in real life? Hold on. Shiloh Fernandez. I guess he couldn't get in the headspace, and it wasn't looking good on camera. So Fede actually walked him out to where they were isolated. It was just them two, deep in the woods. And he was like, I want you to stand out here for 10, 15 minutes by yourself, and then walk back, and then we're going to shoot. And I guess like it was so eerie out there, and Shiloh got so fucking unnerved and scared for real that he came out and gave us the performance that we see on screen because of that.
That's crazy. Fucking Fede, dude, master.
He is, right? Especially with this being technically his real debut. He just knew. He was so inventive and with everything in this, and he just knew already. But it's amazing. But yeah, anyway, going back to the scene, David, or Shiloh, ends up burying his sister alive with a bag on her head, and that's really Jane Levy being buried alive with a bag on her head, although she did have a breathing tube hidden around her ear, but she still was having super hard time breathing, understandably, and they really did bury her completely for a little bit to get the shots, and then she had to dig herself out.
Yeah, dude, when I read about that, how she had to dig herself out.
Like, yo, you guys are on one, man. What the hell is going on? And she looks, maybe, aside from when she's completely possessed in the cellar, she looks the most creepy when she has the bag on her head and she's talking to him. Like, she looks possessed, but she's talking to David normally still. Mm-hmm. Some of the most insane looking stuff. Like, I guess a lot of people were wondering if that was really her or not, and it is.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. It's wild. Like, this one movie has scenes in it and imagery in it that is still like some of the best in modern day horror. And I think that scene where she's talking and she's buried in the ground and she has her bag over the head is one of them.
Man, it's just a master class in the genre. Everything here. But so he unburies her, brings Mia out, and attempts to resuscitate her with a defibrillator, and he thinks it hasn't worked. But and this is it's cool to me because it's like she doesn't have the scarification or anything. It's like he's rescued his sister. You know, she's not breathing yet, but she looks normal now, like when she first got there. And I thought that was a cool kind of element as far as the art direction. Is that it's like he redeemed himself, and it's almost like he's being rewarded by getting his baby sister back. And then he starts to walk away, and he gave up hope, and he covers her with this like blanket, and then he walks away, and then all of a sudden he turns around and she's standing there, and it's almost like she's not sure what's been going on. and that's when they end up going back into the cabin, and then Eric finally comes back as a Deadite, and he is so fucking good. He's so good. Because everybody has their own. I feel like when they turn, they have their weapon of choice, and his, if you notice, I don't know if anybody's put this together or not, but his is the how do you say, the pliers or the clippers that he used to open the barbed wire from the book. That's what he stabs David with when they go back.
That's crazy. I never put that together. I had just noticed on this watch. I just noticed that there were pliers that he stabbed them with. And then now that you're saying that, yeah, dude, that's awesome. I never put that together.
Yeah, it's everything is like meticulously planned out, it seems. But
what a terrible way to be stabbed. Like stab, yeah, but like with fucking pliers,
dirty ass, rusty, dull pliers. No, I'm good. So then, so David gets stabbed in his neck, and he's starting to bleed out, and he kind of stumbles back, and he gives up his life, which is in turn maybe not the right thing to do, because he ultimately gives the demon like the fifth soul, which is brings out the real, resurrection of the demon. But he tries to do the right thing. And he takes a double barrel shotgun and shoots the gas can that's near Eric when he's walking towards him with the pliers once again. And he takes himself out with the deadite of Eric. And now the cabin is completely on fire, and Mia is alone outside, but not for long. The the demon version of her comes out, and it's pretty horrifying, because it like kind of comes out like a serpent from the dirt. All wild. I guess that's like a 60-something-year-old man who's wearing a prosthetic face of Jane Levy's face, so he looks similar to her.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then, we get our big conclusion with that massive amount of, I think it was like something upwards of 50,000 gallons of blood when they do the blood rain.
Shit.
Because the whole movie is like, all right, if you get, this demon is going to show itself if it's able to feed on 5 souls, and technically, because Mia was already taken down, David was the last one. So then this epic fight happens around the Jeep, and that's when Mia pulls out her trusty chainsaw and shocks everybody, because it's like, oh man, Mia is actually going to be our Ash this time around. So it's really cool. And she ends up getting her hand taken off, because the demon flips over the Jeep and pins her between it, and slowly kind of crawls around. I think while she's underneath, she takes out its legs, right, with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
So of course,
yeah.
So of course the demon's mad, and now she's pinned off, and she has no choice but to pretty much detach her hand from her forearm. So now she's bleeding and probably delirious, and she goes up to the demon and it sticks her nub into the chainsaw. Real brutal, like, and just proceeds to shred the demon.
Give us one of the greatest fucking scenes in modern day horror, with her fucking shredding her in half, basically, with that chainsaw, and it's raining blood.
What does she say to the demon when she saw, "Feast on this, you motherfucker"?
Yeah.
And then she just shoves the blade into the demon's mouth and just fucking annihilates it. She's just screaming, and then it does an extreme zoom up on her face, and you just see the blood rain, and there's just so much blood, like, coming, like cake, like it's dripping off of her dress. Like you could tell that. Wow, And I think they took 7 days just to shoot that with the Jeep and everything. It was.
Oh, really?
It wasn't just like one night. It was. They took a long time to get all of that correct.
Damn.
It's so she would have to go back there at night, get all like bloodied up on purpose, plus get like a, how do you say, you know those watering tins that they use for gardening? They would just douse her over her head, but it's blood. Like the most wild shit. Plus you have like that infinite rain, blood rain that's just pouring no matter what, all over the Jeep, all over that area. That they're, of course they're manipulating that, but it's still on you. And then and also I think there was a lot of speculation that remember when going back towards the middle of the movie when David finally breaks down and he's like, we gotta get, Mia burns herself, gives herself like 3rd degree burns in the shower with the pilot light or whatever. And David finally is like, we gotta take her to the hospital. And then when they get to the road to cross, it's completely flooded. You remember that?
Yeah.
So that a lot of people think that that's CGI or that was manipulated, but that's real.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I guess they were getting a lot of natural rain, so then they didn't want to superimpose anything like that. So Fade, again, the fucking goat, waited until that road was flooded specifically for that shot, and they went out and they shot it like that. That's a real flooding.
God damn. When I read that like 95% of it had been practical, I thought for sure that was one of the parts that was CG.
Even the CGI that they did use, like when they go down into the the cellar and they find the kind of how do you say it? Like the dead cats, I think they are. Mm-hmm. Hanging, the flies and everything, that's CGI. So it was very kind of small stuff that you wouldn't even think about. And then, of course, like certain, like even the fire, like in the intro, which we didn't talk about, where they kind of show you, they bring you into the tail end of another victim, a woman who is possessed, and they end up burning her at the stake to exorcise the demon, I guess, or however you want to say it, but they set her on fire. And so even though that the fire is superimposed on her, it's actually like they will set a real fire and then they put it against like a green screen or a black screen, and then they superimpose the real fire into the movie. So it's CGI, but it's not computer generated fire, so it looks authentic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes that's fucking wild.
And so yeah, that's what he did with all the fire in the movie, which is why it looks so good. Even the cabin, like the way that it blows up, you think that they really blew it up and that it's real fire. No, they didn't burn down the cabin the way that it looks like in the movie at all. That's superimposed fire.
That's crazy.
This movie is awesome. If you're listening to us and you haven't seen this yet, please go check it out. I think it's on for free on Pluto TV right now.
Yeah.
So check it out. I can't believe you got rid of that steelbook, man.
Yeah, dude, it's one of the items that I watch constantly on eBay. Like, it's legit. I have that in my watch list of things that I'm watching on eBay, and that is like one of them is that red steelbook, dude. I cannot believe I got rid of all that stuff. I have the soundtrack on vinyl, which is fucking awesome. The colorways and the art of the jackets and the gatefold is dope.
I don't have the soundtrack yet because it's hard to come by, but I know Emma ended up finding it used somewhere, and so she has it. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah. The jacket I know has one of the jackets. The side has Mia looking when she's possessed. She's looking through the cellar, and it's just like a huge ass picture of that.
We're gonna get you.
So for finishing up, what would you give it? What's the score you'd give it?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
I would say this is a 9, and it's only not perfect because, one, you can never touch the original, just like I said with Prey and Predator, and the stupidity of some of the of the people making classic kind of white people decisions.
I respect that.
What about you, man? Tell us.
I think I would give it like a 9.5, just because like you said, nothing can touch the original. I can see where you say that your second reasoning is because how fucking stupid they are. But I look past it just because it has to be like that. They got to be stupid.
Yeah, it's to drive the plot, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's certain things are kind of so infuriating, and it brings me back to when I watched Prometheus. Like, these are supposed to be scientists, and they are, we're on a new undiscovered planet. Let's take our helmets off and breathe in this fucking air. Like, no, dude, no. If that was you and I at that fucking cabin, like, we would have pieced, like, yo, like, let's go do something else, man.
Yeah, that would have been the only time in my life where I would have I'd tell you, let's go on a hike.
Let's get out of here. Like, when the dog fucking, starts pulling back the carpet, and then they pull back the carpet, and you see the blood.
The blood stains.
That's embedded into the wood floor that somebody obviously was trying to hide around the cellar door. Like, at that point, we would have been like, oh yeah, this is not such a good idea. Let's not go down there, And I feel like the reason why Mia survives is she's the only one, despite her going through withdrawals at the same time, is the only logically thinking person out of that entire group, because they're all hyper focused on, no, we've got to save our friend, but it's like, yo, you're not going to be saving anybody if you guys stick around here. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yes, I'm very, very excited for Evil Dead Rise, and I hope it can hold a candle to this one, because the bar is set pretty high. Even with the Ash vs. Evil Dead, that show is top notch. I think you had said you haven't finished it all the way yet.
Yeah, I haven't finished it all the way yet. That last season.
You got to, man. I think there's a box set that's out, and it has all the seasons, and maybe it might have the trilogy as well.
All time goat shit from today.
Yes, and like you were saying off the air a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, that it's a shame that Fede Alvarez hasn't really put out much since this. I know he did Don't Breathe, which is a great kind of home invasion-esque type thriller. Beautifully made. Go back and listen to our episode on that. Anybody who's listening to this who hasn't yet, we have a Don't Breathe episode as well. Check that out. And then he also did, was it The Girl in the Spider's Web?
Yeah.
With Claire Foy. Not on the level of Fincher's, which is probably why it didn't do so well, but it's still pretty decent. And then our boy has been very interested in producing other stuff so far. So I'm really excited to see what he picks up as far as in the director's chair, what he's has coming up for us in the future.
Yeah. I think he did the story or wrote the new TCM, right?
Yes, he did. And I know a lot of people hate it. It's got like a 35 maybe on Rotten right now.
Nah, that shit fucking rocks. And if you fucking hate it, you're just a hater.
But yeah. All right. So next we've kind of discussed it a little bit off air, but in order to celebrate our man's Kevin Smith and what he did for the show and his new release of Clerks 3, we're going to go back into his filmography. And if you're a fan of him, you know that he's done a couple kind of horror-esque films. So we're going to be talking about next week Kevin Smith's Red State.
Hell yeah, dude. Not talked about enough.
That's right. It's very, very good. It stars John Goodman, a.k.a. Atlas. No. Just kidding. But yes, it's a very good movie. Check it out. I don't know. Do we know if it's streaming anywhere?
Oh, shit. I don't know if it is. Netflix.
Check it out. Red State. Coming next week.
Oh, yeah.
What, anything else, man? Any final thoughts?
No, just go check out Evil Dead. And go and fucking support Terrifier 2 this weekend. And then next weekend, we're blessed by the horror gods to get that final Halloween and go and support that shit.
The 14th.
Yep.
Michael Myers Day. All right. So, with that being said, if you're stumbling upon this podcast and you don't know what we do, we operate out of San Diego, California. We release new content through this podcast every single week. Fresh stuff for you. And we're available on most major podcast platforms, including Luminary, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, Sods, you name it, we're on there. Check us out. Drop the mic. Certified by our own Kevin Smith. And with that being said, this is Ryan Jimenez and Wesley Swanson signing off, saying good fight and good night. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Later.
David? David? I can't move. I can't breathe. David!
You're not hurt. You're not hurt!
Why do you hate me, David? I know you do. You left home. You left me all alone with our sick mother. And I was just a kid. You made me lie. Every time she screamed your name, I told her you were coming to see her. Like you promised. But you never did.
Please stop it. I'm begging you.
I know Mother hates you now. And she waits for you in hell.